So at the beginning of the semester, I initiated a 2 hour a day practicing policy. So I'm practicing 2 hours a day, 6 days a week. So I wanted to show you the progression in this critique as opposed to just one drawing. My grandma was a pretty popular local artist. Her name was Kathy Hinkle, and she always said that in order to draw the human form, all you had to do was to know how to draw basic shapes. And what I've learned is that to break it down to the most elemental or basic design is that it helps me with the overall unity and proportion of the pieces. As you'll see in the later pictures in this critique, you'll see that I'm struggling early on with proportion. This picture is actually pretty well done. I think the foreshortening on the leg is done pretty well, except for the lines and angles of the knee. But other than that, I think I pulled off the proportions relatively well. Next, I really wanted to show you how many false starts I actually really have. Anywhere from just a couple of attempts on a piece of paper to almost a completed photo, and then I'm not liking it or not knowing how to fix it, and I'm starting completely over. I think there's a dozen here maybe of my false starts, as I call them. And as you can see, they vary in degrees of finishedness. This one, I honestly think looks like a monster. But yeah. Here again, you can see that I'm struggling with the overall value and proportion and probably form too of the piece. At this point, I just wasn't grasping anything. I think I'm doing a lot better, but I'm hoping that you can notice some mistakes that I'm making over and over again and possibly help the process along quicker. In the next few drawings coming up, you can see that I'm still struggling with the value. Everything's still really, really dark, like we talked about in class. You only get kind of a hint of human form here. The hand. If I'm being honest, this is the most successful hand that I've done to date, and it only looks like an x-ray to me. Although the overall value is good and the balance and unity and proportions are good, it's just the best hand I've been able to pull off yet. But I've come a long way since I've done this picture, so I'm going to try to do a hand again tonight and see how we turn out. And then it was seemingly overnight that my skills kind of jumped forward drastically, as you can see. Now here in the one with the lady with the lady with the peg leg is supposed to be a lady with her knee bent backwards, but again, the form and proportion is off, so it looks like she has a peg leg with a giant hole protruding in it. It was after this picture that I went right out to Blick and bought some of those proportion tools that you showed us and the picture plane, because if you look, the proportions of her shoulders to her butt is just really, really long. It looks like she's been stretched. I do really like how the value turned out in the blanket. And here again, I'm practicing the concept of simple shapes are what make up the human body. And I really think that doing it that way, going into faces, knowing how everything was basically supposed to be shaped and the proportions, I think it really helped me, because it wasn't shortly after this photo that you're looking here that I was able to draw this one. And this is the actual picture that I'll be doing the critique of. I really like how this turned out. I wish the ear would have been better. I need to work on the value to make it look like an earring or a gauge instead of whatever that is. I really like how the nose turned out. The lips, or the lack of, I thought was going to be a challenge, but I really, really liked it. Okay, this is already over 5 minutes long, so I'll go ahead and cut it off here. But this is journal Sorry, this is critique number 1. It's just a progression critique so that I'm hoping you can see where I'm going wrong.